somebody asked whether you have permits to mine, by which I think they were talking about permits to drill. And I think a lot of these areas that where you just improved the targets were areas you were working on permitting before. So you essentially got drill permits set up for all of the Hochschild stuff is already permitted, I believe.
So we have permits on state land, we have permits on Forest Service land, and permits on BLM ground. So and also some of that land is private. So the permitting on that is very straightforward.
Okay. And you just got any sense of timelines of when you can kind of get into some of these areas?
We're looking at an early spring, actually. They've had a good run of about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the snow is melting fast, and people are talking about early summer. So I would like to see, I hope our partners agree, starting in April, okay, and pushing through, and that's a 3,000 to 4,000 meter program. And the earlier we can start, the better, because we would have a place for that drill to go, if we can get our permits put together in Buckland.
Okay. Quick question for Ralph here. I'll give you two questions here, Ralph. Two quick ones. I know it's not something you're going to do until we're a little farther along, but do you have a sense of what the cost would be to bring that 80% completed circuit at Campo Morado? I mean, just I'm not going to hold you to it. I know you've got to do some engineering, but just in kind of an arm wavy level, what do you think it would cost to get that circuit tied in and completed?
I don't have a good feel for it. I would have to get it re-engineered. It was, a number of years ago that the engineering was completed. But if I was to pull a number out of my hat, I would say it would probably be between $5 to $10 million. But that could be on the high side. I like to be a little conservative. So that's the best I can tell you, Eric.
Okay.
We need to get it re-engineered and recosted. And
the other question is also about Campo that one of the viewers asked was, Campo's in Guerrero. Guerrero has, I think, a well-earned reputation, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some of the problems in the past with Nearstar were as much political as operational. You don't seem to be having those problems. I mean, how has that political situation evolved for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Campo Morado is located in a state that's tough. It's probably one of the tougher states in Mexico. But we've reached out, we've engaged the communities, we've engaged all the politicians, and we have our social license, and we contribute to that social license to the local areas. And when the main thing you would get into trouble with is if the mine came under stress and you didn't have money to contribute your social license. So we seem to be doing fine. We've been operating very well over the last little while. And we don't see any roadblocks or any problems arising because the mine's working perfectly, and we're employing a lot of people. We work like most mining companies in Guerrero, knowing full well the security issues, and we address them, and we communicate with the local authorities and public. So I don't see any real problems. Not to say that it won't arise, because everybody has problems now and then on their minds, but if they did, they'd probably be temporary. But so far, so good.
Okay. Quick question for you, Mike. Obviously, I've said, and it's pretty obvious the way the market's acting, that right now Upper Peninsula LM is kind of it's the marquee project. It's the one everybody's paying attention to. But I know you're pretty fond of the gold projects too. Can you give me a sense of any sense of sort of timelines? I mean, is there any work going on? Is there going to be some news flows from those coming along kind of at the same time that you're working in Upper Peninsula?
Yeah, we've submitted 2 notices of intent to drill on each of the gold projects, Coyote and Castle West. So those permits, they're both on BLM land, so it's a relatively straightforward process to get a drill permit. So those have been submitted, and I expect we'll be able to move forward in a couple of months. We're also, I think today is our last day of doing a CSAMT geophysical survey on the Coyote property, which should really give us the ability to decide where to point a drill. So I would say drill targets are going to come out of that. And we'll probably have something we can show the world in a few weeks once the geophysicists are done with it. So that work's going on. It's low cost. the permitting was pretty straightforward. Lots of previous disturbance, so we're just working off existing roads. The CSAMT survey at Coyote is as I said, just about done. And so hopefully in the second half of this year, we'd be in a position to drill those. Probably have to raise a little more money to drill those, but I'm expecting the gold market ought to perk up a little bit too later this year. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, and I guess we can expect continued reporting from LM. I know I've known you long enough to know you were probably betwixt and between and didn't love the idea of putting out descriptions. That's not your usual MO. But like you said, you're kind of stuck with lab turnarounds, and I mean, shareholders probably aren't going to let you off the hook. You got to tell them something. So I guess as things progress, we may see a couple more update releases like the one you put out yesterday.
Yeah, I think so. There will be a bit of a break in work starting later this month as we have to demob for spring breakup. But hopefully I'll be able to tell people about what we've got in the next couple of holes. It's visual estimates, or at least in this type of deposit, it's not like a gold deposit where you don't know what you got until you assay it.
Right.
If you know you've hit the stuff you want to hit, you're going to know it. So we'll put out news as best we can.
Okay. And finally, Darwin, you may have said it and I just didn't hear it, but have you decided whether you're adding rigs in Alaska this year? Is that still up in the air? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we're still evaluating. What we do have is we've got 3 drill rigs on site there right now. We packed them up at the end of the year last year and left them there, which is a nice advantage in terms of reducing our costs to start back up. And we can do a lot of damage with 3. We may add more. We're kind of loosely panning and kind of a start of about 15,000 meters. Right. And we got at least 30% more season available to us this year, because last year we started with COVID, and last year we started with 2 drills in July and added a 3rd sometime in August, and we completed 16,000 meters. So we've got lots of runway to boost the size of the program. Our biggest battle is going to be how much do we put on the regional targets versus growing the known. Easiest solution is probably adding extra drills, although they're harder to come by than you think these days.
Yeah, no, I know they're extremely hard to come by, actually. And I know you haven't put out an official plan for Alaska yet, but I mean, you and I have talked about it. How interested I am in these new targets. The ones you started reporting on 2 or 3 weeks ago. Just even in a very loosey-goosey way, have you got any sense of how that drill budget's going to get divided?
Not fully, other than we know we're going to be drilling them. What I anticipate is the 3 drills will start on the main deposit area for sort of late May and through June. And then I imagine we'll either pull 1 off or 2 off, probably not 2 off, pull 1 off maybe to the difficult creek as a starting point, possibly add another drill or 2. We're still reviewing that right now, but we still have data outstanding from the surface program as well. And so it's not just Difficult Creek, it's probably the most advanced of those other prospects in that we did more work there. And we're ready to go with drilling that. The other ones, we might want a few more weeks tee up work before we go out there with the drills. So there's some debate yet, would likely be drilling some of those other ones later in the season, but it's, we're pretty keen to get the rest of the regional results in and out to the market, because it's really painting quite an interesting picture in terms of the broader opportunity.
Right. Okay, and just to close this session off, I mean, I did get a question from one of the viewers about one of the companies that isn't presenting here today that I've followed for a long time, and that's been frustrating for everybody. And that was sort of the reason for the question, I guess, and that's Vendetta VTT, zinc developer in Australia. Essentially the question was, is it a lost cause? I don't think so. I mean, they haven't said anything meaningful for a very long time. The CEO and I are friends. I mean, I do talk to Mike occasionally. He can only tell me so much, but the sense I'm getting is, thanks to zinc being back above $1.20, he has, I know that he's gotten a couple of approaches from locals, and by that I mean Australian entities. And I'm not even assuming it's majors. I think it may be actually other, large juniors or funding groups that want to put money into it. And I know that one of the two options they've always had is perhaps to get their hands on the mill that's a few kilometers away that Chinalco has. And that Chinalco is just about finished, I think. They were reprocessing some copper tailings through that. I think they got a few months of that left. Once that's done, they kind of have to decide what they do with it. I suspect they would probably want to do a deal. You find quite often in mining, when somebody gets down to the last legs of a deposit, as a miner, what's staring you in the face is a big honking reclamation bill. So it's not that uncommon to see deals done on mining properties, not just at the start of their mine life, but at the end of their mine life, because that, frankly, it gets the seller hopefully out from under at least some of and perhaps all of the reclamation, but allows somebody new to come in at a very low capex. So I think there's a chance for that too. I know there's been conversation, so it's not a stock that I think about too much because it just gives me headaches. But it's not, you know, I wouldn't call it dead yet, but yeah, I mean, for any of us to care, Mike's got to pull a rabbit out of a hat here in the next few months. Otherwise, tax loss could be kind of ugly this year, and I might be trying to get in front of you in the line. Just being honest. So we'll see. We'll just wait and see what he comes up with. But he sounded more encouraging than he has for at least a year the last time I talked to him. That's all I got for now.